Hello, everyone. Hi, nice to see you. This is Tracy at TierraCast. Welcome to our Tuesday morning live tutorial. I have a project from our Wild West product launch. That was our winter launch this year, so that came out in February of this year. And one of the components was a Rattlesnake Link, which we love. He's pretty cute. He's got great detail on front and back. It's always tricky to get this set right where you guys can see it well. So he's got great detail on front and back. Something fun about this part is that when Kirsten, who's our product development manager, she's the person who actually literally works on the parts themselves to get them into production. She's a designer and a bench jeweler. So when she first said, I want to do a rattlesnake link, I made a sketch and I was like, what would that look like? And so we wanted it to be connectable on front, top, and bottom. So I made this little sketch of like this basically. And she said, that looks great. And that's what she used for her model for this great little link. And, we're fully aware that there are people that just don't like snakes, but so far he's been pretty popular. I see Angela popping in and Geeta and Patty. Hello, everybody. Really nice to see you. So one of the designs we made when we launched that group of parts was this super fun. It's just rattlesnakes linked together. And I named it the Gemstone Rattles bracelet, because what I did was I put little clusters of gemstone dangles right at the tail of the snake links so that, it would rattle. So it's a fun little design and very easy. And because I knew that there are people who are just, aren't going to be crazy about making a bracelet of rattlesnakes to wear, I pulled out a lot of our other focal links to play with. So hello, Tracy. Hello, Marika. Hello, Cindy. Hi, Kathy. I'm dating myself, but if any of you remember the show Romper Room, where I think her name was Marianne. I'm not quite sure if I'm remembering right, but she had a mirror and she would hold it up, or it was like a mirror. It was looked like a mirror, but it was just a round lens sort of thing. And she would hold it up and pretend like she saw all the kids who were watching. And so she'd say, hello, so-and-so, and hello. I'm totally dating myself with that. So if you guys missed out on that, I don't know, look it up on YouTube. It was fun. I remember it very fondly from my childhood. Sometimes I feel like that when I'm greeting all you guys. So I'm going to switch my camera down to my my workbench view. And again, as I was showing you, this little rattlesnake charm, which as I was showing it to you guys, one of the little dangles fell off. I must have like a jump ring that's not quite closed here because I see it's missing a couple of dangles. So that's a lesson to you. Close your jump rings thoroughly. And so anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, of course, how to put this one together. But then afterwards, we're going to move on to like some of the other links that I found, that I pulled out that I thought would be fun for this particular demo. But first, we'll start with this one. I have a few of our rattlesnake links pulled out. I'm just going to throw a couple of them. I'm going to connect a couple of them just so you guys can see how I did it. And I guess I don't really need, I do need these little, well, let's go through the part list. So Gemstone Rattles necklace, as you know, Janine is saying she remembers that show. I'm going to put a link here. To this particular project. And I will, of course, put some pictures in later of whatever variations typing and talking at the same time doesn't always work. I'll put in some pictures of whatever variations we end up putting together, or even if they don't make it completely put together, we'll throw that in there because we like to have that alternate inspiration in there in the inspiration pages. So if I was going to make this variation with the rattlesnake links, I would need 7 of the links. I would need, I used one of our hammer tone magnetic clasps for this one because it went super well. It was a great match for the design, but you could use any clasp you want. You need a whole bunch of head pins. And because I was working on this one, I was working with the tiny little gemstone beads. Gosh, I think I pulled out our 21 gauge head pins. I wonder if they're going to work with these tiny little beads because, you know, the holes can be so small, but they will be fine. And they're copper, so I'll be finishing those off with some little wrapped loops. That worked very well for the little turquoise beads I used for the original version. And then I need some jump rings in a couple of sizes. I used our 20 gauge or 19 gauge 6mm round jump ring. And when I say 6mm, I always mean the inside dimension. So it's, you know, slightly larger on the outside. I used those to connect the links together, and I connected them head to tail. And then I used our 20 gauge 4mm ID jump rings to attach the little dangles. So you do need an assortment of jump rings. And then of course we need those little tiny turquoise beads, or whatever you decide that you wanted to put on your. I just put some moisturizer on my hands, and I'm noticing that my beads are sticking to my hands. So Tracy Alden is imagining a silver or gold version with aventurine. Ooh, that would be pretty. Yeah. Hello, Julie. So let's see. I'm thinking of gents ring. Karen is commenting about a gents ring. Is Link hammer friendly with rawhide hammer? Yes. Yes, Karen. But you'd want to be gentle because it is pewter. So pewter's fairly soft. So you would definitely want to be gentle, whatever kind of hammering you were going to do. And I have seen this curved. Okay, getting ahead of ourselves. So this demo involves a couple of course, involves a whole lot of loops. And with this one, I'm doing simple loops. With my variations underneath, I'm doing wrapped loops for this one. You could do simple loops. It's up to you. With the ones underneath, I'm doing simple loops. And because there's going to be so many of them, I'm going to demonstrate a couple different tools. But the first tool I'll talk about is a pair of bracelet bending pliers. And those are nylon jawed that just have a curve. So, you know, Karen was asking about hammering the links, but I also want people to know that you can bend them. The pewter is fairly soft, so if you just take one of these nylon jaw bracelet bending pliers, or if you just have some kind of little round glass jar, something firm that you could bend it against. Obviously, this is not a good choice right now because it's full of beads, but if it was a small jar, I could kind of press against it, and that would give my little link component a curve, which is what I want to do with this design because I want these to fit nicely around my wrist. So part modification. So definitely try a hammer, be gentle, and if you want to curve them, use a tool. So wrapped loops. So I'm just going to use some garden variety round nose pliers for that. Copper wire of our head pins tends to be a little bit softer than some of our other head pins, so they're very easy to wrap, so that's nice. You could also use a 24 gauge head pin as well. So, but for this one, I'm just going to demo the 3 and show you how I connected them together with the little links. So And I just completely forgot what I was doing, and I did a simple loop for this one. So there you go, first simple loop demonstration. Unintended, but there you go. Using just the round nose pliers. Let's go back to plan A and do the simple, or the wrap loop. Okay, so I've got three little dangles made my wrap loops. I'm just going to tuck that little wire end in a little bit so it's not scratchy. This little dangle won't be up against the skin, but still. I used the larger 6mm round jump rings to connect these. And again, I did them head to tail. Just made sense for this particular link. And then to connect the little cluster of beads, I used the 4mm, and I just opened that jump ring and I hung them all those little dangles from the jump ring. And then I attached that also to the tail, not to the jump ring that I used to connect the two links, but to the little loop of the tail. That's where I connected them. And again, with the making sure your jump rings are connected fully so you don't lose your dangles. So that was it for this particular variation of the idea. I just continued connecting the links and making dangles until I had the length I wanted, and then added that magnetic clasp. So that's the original version. So with the, I don't really need all this stuff here, so let me pull it off. When I was taking the pictures to promote the live stream, I wanted a lot of color, but they're not necessary now. So with this one, I am going to do, I pulled out, let's see, let's adjust my tray now that other one is gone. I pulled out a few of the other links that I thought would really do well with this design. So I pulled out our little honeycomb link. I pulled out, oh, what do we call this? Let me look. We just call it a leaf link. It's a really beautiful little piece. It's plain on the back, but has a beautiful little leaf motif on the front. We made this one when we were doing a lot of components that we used with our eyelets and rivets. So the idea behind this was that you would have used eyelets or rivets to attach it to a piece of leather. That was the original inspiration for this particular link. And consequently, the holes that they have at each end are quite roomy because they were made to fit our eyelets and rivets. So they're nice big loops for that. And then this is our infinity link that we also love. And it's a two-sided kind of presentation. It has just a plain surface on the back and then a little bit of texture on the side. So I thought both of those would work nicely for this design. And any of these, also you can take these bracelet bending pliers and adjust those. This one with this bigger link, I kind of start at one side and work my way over on these. It's a thicker piece. It's a much thicker piece than that honeycomb is, but still works real well with the bracelet bending pliers. So you can see nice curve without a lot of effort. I love these tools. They're awesome. And then this one too, I'm going to start on one end, and that's because I don't want to just kind of bend it right from the middle. I want it to curve all the way around, all the way along. So I'm kind of being careful how I do it. I don't want to get a bend instead of a curve anywhere. And that one curves nicely too. All right. I promised tool demonstrations. So obviously we're going to be using all of these. I chose little beads that went with each kind of link that I thought, you know, played well, both color-wise and shape-wise. And so to make one of these, that's a lot of simple loops. Of course, you can do the wrap loop thing like I did with the original, but I thought this would be a nice opportunity to just demonstrate some other tools for making simple loops. So I have a little pair of, they call these bail making pliers. They come, you can see that this one has two different size pegs, jaws, I guess. They're not tapered like a round nose plier, but they're still would be called jaws. Hold on, I got another size of these I'm going to grab. So these come in a variety of sizes. So you can see right here, there's like, you could do all kinds of different size loops with these. These are both from Beetle On. So, and I think that these are the only two sizes, but I could be wrong. And then there's this one also, I believe called bail making pliers, and they just have this huge assortment of size loops that you can use to make, I mean, different size parts of the jaw that you can use to make different size loops. So that's a very cool, simple loop making tool. And then there are these, which I am not super experienced with, but I thought it would be fun to try them. They come in 3 different sizes, and I think we should try them all because I want to see. I've used them a little bit, but not very much. If anybody else, oh, is it, Angela, is that what you call this big one, a 6-step plier? That's a good name for that. I should do a little more research before I do tool demos so I can at least name them correctly, huh? So we are going to need some, of course, some, what do you call those? Somebody help. Wire cutters. So let me think here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some of these little beads over onto this other tray and my little head pins. I think the one that I'm going to play with and actually attempt to get put together is this honeycomb one, just because it feels so seasonal. So I'm just pulling a few of these little check glass beads over, and I'm going to use some different pliers to make some simple loops. I think we'll start with just these little tiny ones. I don't think that I'm going to do that very smallest one, but I think I'll start with this one, because this seems like the size that is most suitable for this particular project. So I'm just going to grab it. I made a bend at the top of my bead. I can't have all of these pliers there. That's going to be crazy. So I made a bend in the wire at the top of the bead, and I'm just going to start rolling this over. If you've watched me do simple loop demonstrations before, you know that my preferred technique is to trim my wire first. But for these, because I'm not, you know, I can do that with my round nose pliers because, you know, I can adjust it as I go. To if my wire's a little longer, I move up the jaw. If my wire's a little shorter, I move down the jaw, and that all determines how big my loop is. But oops, I can just bend that off. But with these, you know, it's a specific size for each one. So I'm having trouble keeping track of my tools, guys. Too many of them on my desk. So I did not want to trim my wire first. I wanted to just wrap the wire around it. And that made a really, really, really lovely loop. And then I trimmed the wire after I did the loop. So let's try just for the fun of it, let's try that second. It's funny, both of these pliers. So what that has a smaller and a bigger and a smaller and a bigger, but this smaller is slightly smaller than that bigger. Does that make sense? Anyway, I'm going to try this one. And I suppose that that these have size when you're like shopping for these, that it will say what the sizes are, the various sizes are for the different ones. Oh, that's a big, nice roomy. Sometimes you need roomy loops, you know, totally depends on what you're doing. These do make very nice loops, I gotta say. They're very round, they're very tidy and clean. So nice, I like that. There's someone named Jessica Hanks, who's a fellow Santa Rosa jewelry maker. Hi, Jessica. Thank you for coming in. Tracy's talking about the bead looper tool, the thicker. She says she uses the bead looper more on thicker, more rigid head pins. Otherwise, she just uses her round nose pliers, which makes perfectly sense. They, you know, if it's a nice soft wire, you know, then it's easy to bend, and a pair of round nose pliers is going to work. However, if you're going to make a ton of them, I think that that's where the one-step loopers are going to come in handy. I'm moving on to the 6-step. Is that what you called it, Angela? 6-step pliers. And again, you got all these sizes to choose from for this particular project. Probably this very smallest one is going to be the best. This one is going to make, it looks like it's about comparable to that larger loop we made, the second one. And then this one looks about, yep, about there. Just for the fun of it, let's do a bigger one. I just love that you have that option. It's a little bit of a different thing. You have to kind of get used to how you're, look at that. You have to get used to the tool, but it's a very different kind of motion for me than just the little soft wire and round nose pliers. Okay, so obviously this is just ridiculously big for this project. We're not going to use that, but isn't that nice that that option is there? I want to move on. So there, you've seen sort of the step plier idea, where they're just the same thickness in the jaws all the way down. Very, very useful. I like them. They're great options. If you're really going to be making a ton of simple loops, I think that that is where these one-step loopers are going to come in the most handy, because I think that they'll save you wear and tear on your hands if you're doing repetitive motion like that. I need to review. So these come in 3 sizes. I think the first one is, I don't know, I think it's about a 2 millimeter opening, a 2 millimeter loop. That's the original one they came out with. The next size up is a 2.25 millimeter loop, and the largest is a 3. And let's see if I can figure out, I've done this before, guys, but it's been a little while and I'm not good at them. You should probably count on somebody else to demo this tool who knows more what they're doing. So you can see that there's this kind of, it has a peg here, and that determines the size of your loop. So you can see on the 3 different ones, the peg here is different on all of them. So we're using the smallest one. It's a tiny little thing. So you you string your bead onto your head pin, and then you insert, there's a hole here in the round part of the jaw, the plier, and then you just tuck it in there. And then this little part of it right here is what bends the wire. So that's going to be up. You're going to put your bead up against that little part of the tool right there, and that bends the wire and cuts the wire and loops it over. So pretty simple. And I'm using my chain nose pliers just to close the opening up a little bit. So you can see how small that little opening is. Maybe it's 2 millimeters, maybe not quite. Let's do another one. It also says works with wire 3/8 of an inch or longer. So if you've trimmed your wire, that's okay. It will, as long as it's not shorter than 3/8 of an inch, it will still work. And I suppose maybe that changes with the bigger ones. All right, let's try. This one is the 2.25 millimeter loop. I suspect that this one is the size that I might want to use with my design here. Oops, a little bit clumsy. I need to be holding the tool in one hand and thread the eye pin with the bead through the tool with the other. I want to make sure that my bead stays down at the head, and that then I tuck it all the way up there so that there's not going to be excess room above my bead. And then you have to get that little piece of wire out and open it up so that you can take so that you can get your little loop off. So that one's slightly bigger. I like it. This one is the size, definitely the size that would work well for this project. I want to do one more with the bigger one just so we can see the loop though. Kimberly's talking about, I'm getting lots of interesting comments, guys. Kimberly is talking about beadle on memory wire finishing pliers. Not familiar with those, Kimberly. I haven't used them, but they also, will they work for just simple loops with regular wire, or are they only for memory wire? Which, if you guys are familiar with memory wire, it's a steel wire. It's very hard to turn, and you do not want to use your regular. Oh, here's the thing. You've got to be careful when you're closing to make sure that your bead is positioned right. Otherwise, I just cracked this one. So that's something good to think about. Memory wire, you do not want to ever use your regular flush cutters or wire cutters on that, because that's steel wire and it will break your, or it will damage your wire cutters. So I'm not familiar with those beadle on memory wire finishing pliers, but that is something for me to look at. And Tracy is saying if she lets her fingernails grow out, using the looper tool prevents me from putting interesting indents and grooves in my nails from the jewelry wire. Very good point. Because you know, if you are a person who has a nice manicure, jewelry making is tough on them. All right, so again, I've got my bead on there. I want to make sure that it stays all the way down there at the head and tucking everything up nice and close. And oh, I see now where the end of the wire comes down. If it's not quite going to clear the bead, then I'm just going to bend it a tiny bit. I bent it back here just a tiny bit, and then that allowed this end of the wire to clear the top of the bead and no damage. And then I am finding that I'm wanting to adjust the loops a tiny bit so that my loop is sitting at the top kind of straight like a lollipop. Have you guys ever heard that analogy for making simple loops, that you want your little loop to sit at the top like a lollipop? If you're not familiar with that, it might sound strange, but it is a thing. So there we go. We've tried the four different loopers. We got the smallest one, and then the medium one, and the larger one. So when these first came out, there was only the smaller one. And I'm such a fan of making different size loops. Oh, hold on. Kimberly is saying that that's what these are. These are what they call memory wire finishing pliers. And maybe I've used them on memory wire, but we just demonstrated that they work really good on regular wire too. So thank you for that, Kimberly. Thank you for clarifying. When these first came out, I thought that loop is just too small. I'm always making my loops different sizes depending on my design. So I did not really gravitate towards them. I didn't really end up using them much. So it is good now that there's more sizes and I can actually come and play and experiment with them. All right. So I think these are super, super handy, especially now with the multiple sizes. So now, guys, I've got all these little loops and I really need like 21 of them in the same size. So I'm going to clear some of this stuff away. And let's see, how should I do this? Maybe I'll just leave this just like this. I don't want those ones. I don't want to have all of this other stuff on the work surface because it's going to be hard for you guys to see stuff if I have. So let me just take the leaf design off, and I'll take this one off too. And now I'm just going to start making a bunch of these using that middle size looping plier. I need 1, 2, 3. I need a bunch, so I better get going. And I might have to cut these apart because I only took out as much of these. I'll just go ahead and use these bigger loops. Once I have it all together, it won't be that noticeable. Right, wrong. It'll be noticeable. Taking it apart. I think this one I can get away with. All right, so 1, 2, 3. I feel like I'm missing a couple of beads, but I'll work it out. All right, so now we're just in repeat mode. Actually, what I think I should do is go ahead and string all these, get them onto their head pins, and then I can just kind of, what do you call that? When in a factory, when it's a production line, assembly line. That's what I was looking for. And I think for this design, remember on the rattlesnake, we were talking about how the I used a larger jump ring to connect the links, and then I used a smaller jump ring to connect the gemstones to the little end of the link. I think for this one, what I would do is just use a jump ring to connect the links and attach the loops directly to that jump ring. There won't be a need for an additional size jump ring. Karen is saying that she uses memory wire loop pliers. Anytime she's just using stainless steel or head pins or wire that's 16 gauge and thicker. You know, I love, oh, here's my little strand of those other beads. I'm going to need more of those. I love how when we're doing these videos, people pop in. You guys all have your own experiences and tips. And I just think that's so great to be able to share with everybody else. All right, it is right now by my clock, 10:35. I am curious how long it's going to take me to do 3, 6, 9, 12. One's too big, got to cut it off. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 of these loops using the looper pliers. I'm not very adept with them yet, guys. It feels clumsy, but I'm assuming that if I used them a lot, I would get better. I think you do need to be careful with the placement of the wire so that you don't end up with a kind of a long neck on your loop. Oops, just fell off. And I am finding there is a slightly longer neck with the loop with this tool, but you know, that's probably good so that it doesn't damage the top of your bead like we were talking about. And I think that with experience with the tool, you'll probably get better at it. There's certainly, it's a wide handle, so I'm finding that it is, I have to really kind of reach to get a grip on it. But I guess it needs to be wide because there's a lot of motion that the tool needs to make. But it's working good. I might not be super speedy at it, but isn't the color of this bead is very pretty. They're actually little, it's check glass, Karen, but it is just the color of amber and has that little variation in it. So that's what I thought. I wanted like an amber kind of bead that would look kind of like honey, drops of honey. And with the leaf one that I had laid out, again, it was just some little, I loved the combination of brass with this kind of peridot AB crystal. That's a gorgeous combo. I am not going to attempt to put two of these together in the same demo though. So we're just going to go with the honeycomb. I do think that with practice, a person will get quicker at this and learn exactly how to use the tool efficiently. I am not there yet. I think it's definitely, you know, it's working more efficiently than if I was doing each one individually with wire cutters, you know, having to use two different tools, the round nose pliers and the wire cutters, and then maybe even the chain nose pliers too to come in and straighten. So you're minimizing the number of tools you have to use. It's kind of fascinating to watch the little process too. I'm finding what little part of the tool does what. That one got a little out of whack. Some of these will definitely need a little bit of straightening. As soon as it's cut and bent, release the handle and it comes off the pin easier. If I release it all the way, though, what I find, Karen, is that this part, the big seat, comes down up against the wire again. So there's kind of a middle of the process spot that makes that then I can get the wire out of there. And I'm also noticing that if I really do leave it on there and squeeze it completely, it straightens. It does that little straightening thing that that I would have gone in with the chain nose pliers after. Can you see that it kind of goes, makes it go beep and come back that way? This is fun. I don't know if it's fun for you guys, but I'm enjoying it. I'm getting to the end of my line here. Yeah, it works really, it's very interesting. Works really nicely. So that took about, it is now by my clock like 7:40, I'm sorry, 11, I'm sorry, what time is it? 10:42. So that took me like 7 minutes to do all of those loops. That feels okay to me. I definitely feel it in my hand because I'm not used to using the tool, but you know, with regular use, you would get used to that. I'm going to use those same 6mm ID jump rings. Actually, what I think I better do before I start hooking everything together is do my little QC here. This is where I'm going to go in and I'm going to close the ones that I didn't quite close all the way on the tool and straighten if necessary. I think definitely the ones I did at the beginning of the process here need a little more love than the ones I was getting better at it by the time I got to the end of the row. So the ones down here where I started, they need a little more love. Oops. Oh, these ones got hooked together. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, the next thing I want to do before I start putting everything together is what I've done with my little honeycomb links is I've alternated them. You know, it's kind of it's a symmetrical piece, except that there's this one extra little cell on one side. So I'm alternating the direction of those cells. And then I want to go in and give those a little curve all the way. It is easier to do that before you hook everything together, because otherwise, if you've hooked everything together, then you have to kind of maneuver around the jump rings. And yeah, it's just better to do it before. And this is completely optional. If you didn't want to bend them, that would be fine. It's just that I find I like that it gives that nice shape to kind of lay against the wrist. Now that said, if I was wearing this, it's probably going to, you know, flop around and rotate. But the curve is nice. So nice, but optional. And my magnet keeps trying to attach to my pliers. All right. So with these jump rings, actually I am going to need some other size jump rings to attach the clasp components. I could use these big ones, but I think I'm going to prefer using some small oval jump rings to attach the toggle clasp components. And depending on, so let's see, adding the jump ring to the link, or attaching it to the link, then I'm adding my little bead dangles, and then I'm closing the jump ring, adding the second link and closing the jump ring. That'll keep it consistent, so my little dangles are all hanging off the bottom side. Does that make sense? Cindy is saying simple loops aren't simple for her. So, you know, it's nice here to see that there's different tools to play with, you know, that you might find that one works easier for you to help you with your simple loops. This is really the easy part here. Now that we've got all that earlier work done, putting the bracelet together is a cinch. I think that normally when I do my, when I'm preparing for my demos, one of the things I do is I imagine, okay, what kind of links, what kind of products am I going to mention that I might want to show you guys a link to? And I forgot to do that this time, but I do want to pull up. So what I do is I look for those links and I throw them into a Word doc, and then when I'm talking with you guys, I can just I can grab them off the Word doc and throw them into the comments. But, you know, I just didn't get around to it this time. I forgot to. But I want to throw in a link to the focal links, just so you can kind of peruse the other types of components that might work well for this design idea. You know, including, of course, the ones I pulled out to play with when I was prepping for the show, but also there's other ones in there, something you guys might like better. We have a lot of that kind of stuff in our lineup. Some of them are from our leather, when we were really working on a lot of stuff to use with leather. And some of them are just other things that have come along over the years. I am going to, so I've got all of my links connected. That is about 6 inches. So with my clasp, that's going to be about a 7-inch bracelet, 7.5 even, with this particular clasp. This is a kind of a big clasp. I wanted to use it because it's got the flowers on it, which seem to play, you know, plays nice with the whole bee thing. So it is a fairly big toggle clasp. So this bracelet, when it's all said and done, will be about a good 7.5-inch bracelet. So of course, if you needed a smaller one, you would, you could take one of those links off. You could choose a smaller, smaller clasp. The magnetic clasp that I used for the original one for the snake is, you know, pretty low profile. It does not add that much length on its own. It's only about 3/4 of an inch. The toggle clasp tends to add a little more length. All right, and I think I said, I think what I'll do, maybe that same round jump ring initially and then 2 small ovals. That might be the way to go. You know, you need to have multiple jump rings for the bar side of your toggle clasp because it has to be able to wiggle to get through the toggle ring. So I'm going to use 2 of these little smallest oval jump rings, I think. And that should give that the bar enough maneuverability so that it's easy to get in and out of the ring. Oops. These are tiny little jump rings. Oops, lost it. This clearly needs one more thing. It needs a bee, don't you think? Somewhere? But where? Maybe up by the toggle ring. I don't know about you guys, but I usually avoid putting a lot of dangly stuff. If I'm doing a charm bracelet like this, I avoid putting a lot of dangling stuff down at the toggle bar because it feels like it, oh, what did I do? I put the jump ring on, but the charm fell off. All right. There it is. There's at least that version we got through. Yeah, Karen said it takes a while to adjust to the one-step looper. She seems to be pretty knowledgeable. So Karen seems to have experience with this. So I'm glad she's piping in with her tips. And I will definitely look those over some more so that I can get a little bit better with them. So thank you, Karen. Sounds like she's used them quite a bit. So that's it, guys. That is my focal links. You know, focal links, variation to the Gemstone Rattles bracelet idea. So hopefully you guys look at the, sorry, you know, I'm talking, I'm using my hands. Sometimes I can't do both at once. I hope that you guys will take a look at the focal link link that I put into the comments and look through the links and might get inspired to do something similar. And I will put I'll put a picture up into the inspiration page on the website. And I think that's all I got for you. That was a heavy duty tool demo. I don't usually do that. Usually, you know, I'm using the garden variety jewelry tools to make whatever it is we're making. But this felt, because there were so many simple loops, I'm like, you know, this is a good time to just cover some of these other tools that you can do simple loops with besides just the chain nose pliers and the wire cutters. So, hey, hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting to know those, the one-step looper a little bit better, because I just have not played with those very much. So hopefully if you guys can get your hands on some, you will enjoy practicing with them too. So thank you guys for joining me. And I will probably I definitely will figure out what I'm doing next week. And I'll let you guys know what that'll be on Saturday. Okay. Hope everybody has a good week. Be well, make lots of stuff, and I will see you next week. Bye.